Welcome to the You Ask, We Answer session. I'm joined in this session by Steph Telfer, who I worked with for nearly 10 years at Scottish Wedding Magazine. So she was digital editor, I was editor, and she is basically the Dec to my aunt, the Leslie to my Anne. I have to also add that she insists on being Dec, and I've been forced to be Aunt. Um, but yeah, we've worked together for a long time. She is one of my best pals. She's also a bride to be, and she's full of really great advice. So what we've been doing for the past few weeks is you guys have been sending us in your wedding dilemmas, and in this session we're going to go through your kind of problems and chat through how we think that you could solve them or should solve them. So hi Steph, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, pretty good. Bit of a rubbish day, but yeah, we're gonna cheer ourselves up by talking about weddings, which is definitely my favourite subject. So love helping people out like we did at Scottish Weddings. So happy to help today, yeah.
Good, same. Okay, so I'm going to start with one of the first questions that's been sent in, which is it's from Siobhan, who says she's unsure about the etiquette regarding guests paying for things. She says she sees a lot of venues talking about price per head for dinners and the price of rooms, and she hates to ask people to pay for things, but what is appropriate? Um, it's quite an interesting one because I guess if you're totally new to wedding planning and you're doing that kind of initial research and you're looking on venue websites and things like that and you're seeing the way that the prices are laid out, it can kind of feel like, right, what is the norm here? But I would say from my own experience, and I think you're probably going to agree with me here, that when it comes to food and stuff like that, you can't expect a guest to pay for their meal because this is your wedding. You're asking them to come to celebrate your
Yeah.
relationship and your marriage. Um, I think it's bad form to be like, right, give me 50 quid. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think, like you say, wedding jargon can be quite off-putting at first. I mean, it all seems self-explanatory to us, but then we've been in the industry for a long time. But if you're brand new to this, you've never planned a wedding, you've never been a bridesmaid, you've never helped anyone, then sometimes wording can kind of put you off. When it's things like price per head and all that kind of thing, because it kind of individualises everything, and maybe you're thinking, is it normal for guests to contribute to things like that? But I would say definitely the same as you, really. So any food and drink and stuff like that would all be paid for by the couple or whoever's paying for the wedding. I would never ask a guest to pay for any of that. You're inviting someone to come and be your guest at your wedding day, so you're definitely not expecting people to pay for food and drink. When it comes to other things like accommodation, I think that it's acceptable to expect guests to pay for their own accommodation. I certainly wouldn't imagine a couple paying for everyone's hotel rooms or whatever. The only thing I would say about that is for the wedding party, you might consider contributing to their accommodation, because usually, you would want them to stay over the night before and maybe the night after. So if you're asking someone specifically to stay, then maybe consider putting some money towards their accommodation. Again, I don't think it's absolutely expected, but I think it would be a nice gesture to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I'm just thinking back to when I was a bridesmaid last year, and my best pal paid for the accommodation because her reasoning was, well, I'm asking you to come and to stay over
Yeah,
and to be there with me on the wedding morning, so therefore I'm gonna foot that bill basically. And yeah, but yeah, I do totally agree that you shouldn't be expecting guests. Sorry, you shouldn't be guests shouldn't be expecting for you to pay for their accommodation. Like they're usually more than happy to do that. What about
yeah,
transport? I
definitely.
always think that's like a bit of a kind of like transport's kind of a difficult
Um,
one. People are always like, do I have to
yeah,
put it on? Do I have to provide it? What do you think about that?
I think it all depends on the circumstances. I mean, if you're getting married that somewhere that's pretty far away from where you and the majority of your guests are from, then personally, I probably would say you've got to put on some sort of transport to get home at least, especially if people don't have the options of trains and maybe not taxis from where you are and things. Or if taxi's going to be extortionate from where you're getting married, then I think in terms of a bus or a coach or something. I've thought about this a lot actually, because I need to do the same thing for my wedding. I live in South Lanarkshire and I'm getting married at Loch Lomond, so and my guests majority are from Lanarkshire, so I kind of feel like I need to do a bus, which is fine. However, if I personally was asked to pay money towards transport home, I would pay it. But like, say you've hired a bus and you're asking each guest to pay £5 for pick up and drop off. I think that would actually be acceptable. I would personally be fine paying that as a guest. I wouldn't ask my guests to do it, but I would be fine with someone asking me to do that, because at the end of the day, you're getting taxis, you're getting trains and stuff like that. So it'd be easier if someone just organised a coach and everyone went together. So in terms of transport, I think if you're getting married somewhere local, I don't think you need to bother with stuff like that. I don't think you need to worry about that. I think guests can pay for their own taxis home and get the train over or whatever. I don't think if it's local, but if it's a bit further away, I do think you should provide transport, definitely.
Yeah. And if money is a concern, if you're in these early stages of planning a wedding and you're looking at these package prices and you're thinking, God, I can't afford to spend £80 a head, then there are ways to feed guests more cheaply. So maybe one thing that Siobhan could think about would be perhaps hiring a venue where you get to bring in an external caterer, and that gives you a bit more flexibility with what you do food wise. You could maybe have like a buffet or a barbecue or something like that. It's not going to be dirt cheap, but it might work out cheaper than paying for a 3-course meal, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. There's always
And
ways
people like
around.
that as well. People love that.
Definitely. There's always ways around the budget. I think the best thing to do is just have a chat with your wedding coordinator at the venue and say, just be honest, don't pretend that, like I think from the get go with everything, be honest, say this is how much I can afford to spend on this and what are ways that I can cut costs here, or, not cut costs, but like economise a little bit on things like that, like you say, a buffet maybe, or a hog roast or something like that might end up being cheaper. And that's what your wedding coordinator's there for, just to try and help you out. That's their job. So I think don't be scared to say, I'm finding this is coming in a bit expensive. Is there anything they can do? Maybe there's not, and you'll then have to think about a guest list situation. But if there is, I'm sure that they'll be happy to help you sort that out if you've already booked your venue.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you say, as always. Have you got a question at your end that you would like to?
I do. So this is a bit of a specific one that was sent to me on my Steph's Bride's Diary Instagram. So the question is, we're in a situation where we're allowing guests travelling from abroad where we live to bring children to our Scottish wedding, but we'd rather not invite any more kids. So how do we invite some children but not others? The blanket rule of no kids can't apply, even though we'd ideally be having a no kid rule at our wedding. So this couple lives abroad, and their guests that are travelling from abroad are going to have to come. It's far away. It's a far away destination. I won't give it away because I don't want to give too much away about this person who sent in the question. But it's not a weekend trip. It's a 2-week trip. So you can't really expect people to travel for 2 weeks without them. So what they're saying is they're okay with the people from where they live coming with their kids, but they don't then want that invitation to be open to their Scottish guests' kids. So what do they do?
That's such a tricky one. That's so difficult, and I totally appreciate their predicament, and I totally understand why they feel like, obviously, like if people are coming from overseas to a wedding in Scotland, you can't expect them to just leave the kids at home. Like that's just a logistical nightmare. You can't do it. So yeah, what do you do in that circumstance? I mean, I kind of think it's your wedding, it's your rules, and it's fine for you. I think it's fine for you to do that. I think that you need to tell your Scottish guests that that's what you're doing before the wedding, so that you're not kind of telling them, oh, by the way, it's no kids, and then they come along on the day and some kids are there running about, like they might be a bit confused. So I would kind of give them a bit of a heads
Yeah.
up about
I
it and
think,
say this is what we're doing and this is why. I think most people
yeah.
would be understanding of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me personally, I think that people worry about this subject quite a lot, and actually, I don't think guests are as bothered about it as you think they're going to be. So, I mean, in my own personal experience, people going to weddings have a better time if they don't need to take their kids with them because they can have a drink, they can enjoy themselves, they can maybe stay overnight. The kids aren't falling asleep and stuff like that at the reception. You don't have to feel like you're always on guard. So, I actually think if people can leave their children at home, then they'd actually probably prefer to do that. Maybe not family kids, but yeah, I think people worry about it, but actually, I think people are usually quite happy to have a bit of time away and enjoy the wedding without their kids there. Like you said as well, Natasha, it's your wedding. You don't owe anyone any explanations for anything. It is obviously nice to be courteous and let people know here's why we've got some kids here, and here's why we kind of don't want to have any more children. I think it's nice
Mm-hmm.
to say that, but I also don't think that you owe anyone an explanation, and you can do whatever you like basically because it's your wedding day. So don't feel obliged to be like really apologetic about it or anything like that. I think just be matter of fact. And honestly, I think most of your guests are going to understand the predicament you're in. Like, any sensible person would understand, right? Okay, these people can't palm their kids off to someone else for 2 weeks. They're not going to do that. If it's a longer trip. So yeah, I think people will be more understanding than you think they're going to be.
Yeah, I think so too, and I agree. It's something that people do tend to get tied up in knots over. And well, I do have some friends though who have tried to kind of impose the no kids rule, and then have faced a bit of a backlash from family members who've just been a bit arsey about it. And if you're panicking about this and you've got like a specific person in mind that you think is going to kick off, um, like you say, I do think it will just be matter of fact about it, and it's your wedding and your rules. You could, if you wanted to kind of um, not give an olive branch, but if you wanted to kind of say something to mitigate any potential drama, you could say something like, um, if you're worried about the cost of attending the wedding and paying for childcare and all that kind of stuff, like don't worry about getting me a present. Like if you're spending money on childcare,
Yeah,
you don't need to worry about getting as a gift, and then you're at least they're still probably going to get you one because nobody wants to turn up at a wedding empty-handed. But that's you kind of
yeah,
recognizing, I understand that you're going to have to spend a little bit more if you don't have a family member to look after the kids. So,
yeah.
here's my gesture for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's above and beyond what you need to do, and that would be really nice if you were if you wanted to do that, that'd be fine. I think also if you've got a wedding website, maybe put a little note on there saying, we love your kids, but unfortunately we can only host a certain number at our wedding, and those will be the children from people travelling from where we live. And I think that a little explanation like that would be fine. And if you feel like you see if there's going to be a specific person, maybe just speak to them individually and say, look, I know you're finding it tough to get childcare. I know you want to bring your kids or whatever, but here's our reasons. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's above and beyond what you actually need to do. But it's courteous and nice, and hopefully no bad blood there. But yeah,
Yeah,
don't
totally.
worry too much about it. I think that people will be a lot more understanding than you think.
Yeah. Okay, another question. I'm just gonna grab my phone to read it out. This was one that came through on Facebook. It's from Debbie, and she says, we're really struggling from music. Both of us are into R&B, and we just
Mm-hmm.
can't seem to find a first dance that is appropriate.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, like I was thinking at first, I was like, oh, like I love R&B. There must be loads of great, amazing first dance songs that would work. And then
Yeah,
you look at the lyrics, and you're like, no, that this is too sexy to dance to in
yeah,
front of my gran.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
assuming as well that I wasn't too sure how broad, uh, like their musical,
Yes. Uh-huh.
um, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know if
Yeah,
do you like R&B, but does that extend? Like, are you talking about Motown and things like that? In which case, I think there's
exactly.
a lot of
That was
great
just
options. Or
yeah.
but I feel like maybe she's more talking about 90s, early noughties kind of R&B. And yeah, what have you got any suggestions? Is there any songs that come to mind?
I guess I was kind of thinking about along the lines of what you're saying there, like what kind of era of R&B they want to go for, or what kind of singers. Obviously, you've got your classics. You could go down the route of like something like Etta James or something like that. But I don't know if that's quite right for them. Another thing that I was thinking about was By Your Side by Sadie, which is an amazing song, and I guess that kind of is in that genre. And it is appropriate completely. I guess that a lot of people do that for their first dances. Yeah, it's a hard one because yeah, you do kind of need to look at the lyrics, even something that you think, oh, that's really romantic, and then you look at the lyrics and you're like, no, it's actually not even about that. It's about something completely different. So yeah, it's definitely good to be
Yeah,
mindful of that. Um, yeah, it's a tough one. That would be my suggestion. By Your Side by Sadie is amazing. Um,
okay.
or maybe an R&B singer that you like covering a love song. It doesn't necessarily need to be
Yes,
their song, but I know that Lauren Hill does some amazing covers.
yeah,
It depends if you're playing that from a track or whether you're getting a band to sing it, obviously. If you're
yeah,
playing it
that's
from a
true.
track, yeah, Lauren Hill does some really, really nice covers. You should definitely look into that if you're playing it from a track.
Yeah, actually, like one that I was thinking of that came to mind because I was thinking the first artist that I thought about was Frank Ocean, and he's got so many beautiful songs, but then lyrically, a lot of them, especially like from the album Blonde, like a lot of them are kind of tainted with heartache and things like that in the
Yeah,
lyrics, and
you
they're
see
just
that
not
a
really
lot
like
in that.
wedding appropriate.
Yeah, you get that
Yeah,
kind
it is like yeah.
of yeah.
But he did a cover of Moon River, and it's really beautiful. And I thought that that might be quite a good option for a first dance.
Hmm.
There's also this is a classic one. This is always like in the top 10 first dances, first 10 top 10 most popular first dance songs. Casey and Jojo, All My
Oh my
Life.
god, yeah, definitely.
It's a belter. It's a total belter. Like it's love. It's like a lovely song. Then I was thinking about remember that song "Angel of Mine" by Eternal.
Yes.
That's nice, and
Good.
I think there's a version of it by Monica, as in Brandy and Monica,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, which is really nice. And the other thing that I wanted to say was that your first dance doesn't have to be slow. A lot of people think that when they're choosing first dance songs, right, this has to be something that we can waltz to, and it has to feel like slow and romantic and all that, but it doesn't have to. So you could even go for a song like One Thing by Amory, which is a total stone
Hmm.
cold classic, and you could get like a proper boogie going to it. Like I would love to have a
Yeah.
first dance like that. So um, try to take away any limitations in your head of what a first dance should be, and you might find that there are more options. Even like Beyonce, like Crazy in Love, something
Yeah.
like that would be quite a good fun song. And that was
Yeah.
actually Beyonce's own
You.
first dance song. So, wee fun
Yeah.
fact for
Yeah.
you.
Beyonce's got some great ones. Obviously, like you say, it just depends if Beyonce is the type of thing that they're into.
Yeah,
Um, you've got the whole rest of your night to play all the songs that you want. So don't be shy about putting some R&B stuff that you like on your playlist for the rest of the night.
hmm,
Don't be too worried about like if grands and things like that are going to like it, because I'm sure they'll love it, and it's your wedding, so have exactly what you want. Obviously, it's nice to have a mix in there, but yeah, so you can add the things that you like to your playlist later on at night.
yeah, agreed. Have you got another question there?
Aha. So let me just have a wee look. So, okay, this is maybe a wee bit of an awkward one. So, I got a question on Instagram asking how to uninvite people if you have chosen to go ahead with a smaller wedding because of the pandemic rules and regulations. So, yeah, this is again another one where I think people might be overthinking it slightly. You are
Yeah,
not uninviting people to your wedding because you don't want them to be there. You're uninviting them because legally you can't have them there. And I think that most people would just be so understanding of that. You're only allowed a certain number. I'm not like it's hard to say the number because it changes so often. But I think at the moment in Scotland it's 20 that you're allowed. Am I
Mm-hmm.
right in saying that? Yeah, 20. So
Right now it is. It could easily
it
change
is.
tomorrow. But yeah.
Exactly. So right now we're on 20, and I think people would totally understand that that pretty much covers family and maybe your closest friend each. But
Yeah.
maybe not even your closest friends each. It just depends how big your family is. So yeah, I honestly think that people are so understanding in this situation, especially right now. You're not uninviting people because you don't want them there.
Yeah, I think so too. And actually, like when I think about it, technically, I guess I was uninvited from a wedding earlier this summer, but I didn't view it that way at all. So it's only just as you're talking about it that I'm thinking, all right, yeah, that kind of happened to me as a guest, and I can tell you, I did not mind. I wasn't offended at all because of course people can only invite a restricted number of guests, and I'm not going to make the A list for every single wedding that I'm invited to. And what this couple did was they just had close family and friends to their wedding, and um, to all the other guests that they had invited, they actually sent a Zoom link so that you could join the ceremony virtually
Yeah,
if you wanted to. So they provided
yeah,
that option for anybody that couldn't be there. So that's something you might want to think about doing. But equally, if it's a faff and you can't be arsed with that whole
yeah,
component of it, don't worry about it. Like, no one's going to be pissed
yeah.
off at you.
Exactly. Stressful enough situation as it is,
Yeah.
so don't worry too much about that kind of thing. Um, I think obviously, like if you've got your guest list, you've sent your save the dates out, you are going to go ahead with it, but it's going to be smaller. Obviously, like tell those people. I mean, I know they're going to know they're not going to be able to come, but just drop everybody a message, or get a wee graphic created, or use Canva to do something cute, and just say something along the lines of, we would love you to have been there, but obviously you know what the restrictions are, and we're going to go ahead and get married and blah 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 and all that kind of thing. I honestly think that people are going to be totally fine about it. But this kind of leads me on to another question that I was asked. So if it's okay with you, I'll just move on to the other one because
Yeah, of course.
um, I had another question from another bride who is going to go ahead with her smaller wedding, her micro wedding, we're calling them now. But she doesn't want it just to be a ceremony and go. She wants to give it, the same attention as she was going to give her bigger wedding, and she wants to know what we think she should do to kind of make it a bit more special. Any little special touches or things she can do.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it feels more like a real wedding, which it is. But
Yes.
yeah, what she had originally planned, I guess.
I think there's lots of stuff that you can do, and I think that one advantage of having a smaller wedding, um, I've been thinking about this quite a lot. Like, your day is kind of opened up a lot more when your wedding's smaller, because with a traditional kind of large wedding, it is a very rushed and mad, manic day. Like, from the minute you wake up, you're going to get your hair and makeup done. Your bridesmaids are all getting ready. Everyone's like in a wee bit of a flap, like in a good way. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's kind of rushing about. Then you're going to the ceremony. Then you're getting your pictures taken. Then you're thinking, oh my God, right, I need to get round all of these guests and make sure I've said hi to everyone, and have a drink with everyone and all that. And then you're
yeah,
into dinner, and then it's speeches, and it's just like it's a really full on day.
yeah,
Um, and when you've got a wedding that's much smaller and you've got these limitations in place, you get to kind of take the day a bit more at your own pace, and you can do things that maybe you wouldn't ordinarily do, and you can kind of create your own special traditions, I think. Um,
yeah,
like, one thing I've heard a lot of couples doing is they're going out for breakfast, like they're going to their favourite place for breakfast on the wedding morning together, or going out for coffee to like their favourite coffee shop, which I think is such a nice thing to do. And
Mhm.
I've also seen a few more people than usual having a first look photo shoot,
Oh yeah,
which is
yeah,
when, so maybe you and your partner will just be staying in your house before the wedding rather than staying separately, and maybe you'll even be getting ready at home. But you can do that in separate rooms, and then you can have your photographer there to kind of capture that first moment that you see each other when you're all kind of dressed up in your wedding outfits. And I think that's a really lovely thing to do. Um,
yeah, definitely.
I think also that like your ceremony is a really important place where you can inject a lot of meaning into your day, and you can write your own vows, you could have some really special readings, and you might not feel safe doing something like a ring warming right now, or a quake ceremony even. But what you could maybe do is, if you've only got, say you had like 10 guests or something like that, you could have each person kind of stand up during your ceremony and say something that they love about you as a couple, or like a favourite memory that they've got of you guys, of hanging out with you. Something like that I think would be quite cute to do.
Yeah, I think that's a nice idea. I think there's traditions in other countries where actually all guests stand up and say something about the couple. Even at large weddings, which obviously would take forever, but like other countries do that. I think if it's not your ideal situation, I think that just by the very nature of these micro weddings, they're really special because you're doing something that you want to do in a situation where it feels like the world is kind of falling apart a little bit. I think your guests are going to feel really privileged to be able to come and witness that wedding at this time. I wouldn't worry about kind of guests feeling like it's not as special as a big wedding, or it's not as special as a wedding where there's no restrictions. I think what you said there about Natasha about the speech idea is really nice. I also think, I mean, the thing is, there's rules and regulations around everything. So they would prefer people to do speeches outdoors, and if it's
Yeah,
not possible because the weather, then it might be nice to do some pre-recorded stuff. So and
yeah,
people who maybe aren't there, you could do some pre-recorded messages. The first dance might not be possible either because you can't have music, but you could pre-record something, a first dance, and play it for your guests. Like, you kind of got to think outside the box for these smaller weddings and think about how you can work around the restrictions safely, obviously. Yeah, and I think if you're happy to, spend some money on that day, then you can get really personal gifts for your guests if you wanted to. If you only had a handful, then you can be a bit more personal with, well, I guess it wouldn't be favours, but the gifts you give people, maybe a little handwritten note for everyone. And yeah, you can kind of make it really nice, and it'll feel really intimate, I think. And every single one of these micro weddings that I've seen people talking about in the Facebook groups and all across the board, everyone, probably without exception, has said how amazing it has been and what a lovely experience it's been. So yeah, I don't think you need to worry too much about, putting things on for guests or whatever, because I think that the nature of them being there, being chosen to be there when the numbers are so small, I think is going to make it really special and probably really emotional as well for
yeah.
everyone. So yeah.
I agree. I would say also use your suppliers, and like, contact your florist, contact the person that was making your cake for your bigger wedding if you'd already planned that. You can speak to decor people. Every single wedding supplier, almost without exception, I know there are some exceptions, is able to work just now, and really wants to be involved in weddings, and they're full of ideas. Like, use their knowledge because they've got loads of it. They're going to be able to tell you, like, why don't we do this, why don't we do that, and they could think of things that you've maybe not considered. So definitely make use of them, and they're the people that make your wedding feel like a wedding as well, like, rather than just, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
a party, like, so definitely make use of their expertise, and you can do stuff like, if you can't get married in a traditional venue, and if restaurants are open again, like, these rules are going to change for different parts of Scotland at different times over the next few months. But if that's a possibility, you could have a wee dinner at your favourite restaurant with a handful of guests maybe, or you could maybe speak to your restaurant and say, can you give us some food to take away, and we can maybe have that outdoors or at home. Again, it's totally dependent on restrictions, but there are ways to kind of work with the restrictions, I suppose, and I think just talking to people is a good place to start. Sometimes you can feel quite despairing when you see all these rules coming in. You're like, oh, like, I can't do anything. But actually, if you chat to folk, if you chat to businesses, they'll say, right, well, here's something that we can do for you, and you realise that there are maybe more options than you
Yeah.
previously thought.
Yeah, definitely. Just going back to what you said there about suppliers, like, I spoke to someone recently who went ahead with a smaller wedding with a view to having her big wedding next year. And actually, after the fact. So she didn't use any of her suppliers that she was supposed to use for her big wedding. She hired all new suppliers. She actually got a new dress for this micro wedding, but actually afterwards she says, my biggest regret is not using all my suppliers that I had booked and wearing the dress that I was going to wear on my wedding day. She's like, because I didn't think it was going to feel like my wedding day that day. She's like, but it completely felt like my wedding day. And now she's like, actually the big party afterwards doesn't appeal to us as much as we thought it was going to, because the day just felt so perfect. They're going to go ahead and have the party and use their suppliers, and that'll be amazing, I'm sure. But she did say, like, I wish I had just used the suppliers that I had booked, because they're amazing and they could have done something for us. She just kind of felt like, and I'm sure a lot of people would feel this way, maybe that's not going to feel like my wedding day that day, because not everyone that I want to be there, but she was of the mind that, yep, it absolutely did. And she did say her biggest regret was not using her suppliers that she had booked for her big wedding and wearing her wedding dress. She wishes that she'd just gone ahead and done that. So for sure, don't just scrap your suppliers, speak to them and see what they can do. And I'm sure they'll have so many ideas to make a little wedding really special.
Yeah, definitely. Like for one of the other sessions for the wedding show, I was speaking to Ali from Frill Factory, who does, really amazing decor and prop hire and stuff for weddings. And she was saying that one thing that she's looking to do is to create really cool backdrops for DIY photo booths. And that's something that maybe she hadn't done before, but that she's now branching out into. And that's like a really cute thing that you can do. And you just get an Instax camera or something like that. And that's, some really easy entertainment. And that's an idea that maybe you wouldn't have thought of yourself, but all you need to do is pick up the phone or email your supplier and they'll say, well, actually, this is how we're adapting. So, definitely.
Yeah. And they're all, I think, I can speak for most of the Scottish suppliers that I know, they're also adaptable to all these situations. So that's their job, is to be adaptable and be creative and all that kind of thing. So, you're never going to go to someone and they're going to go, well, I don't know what to do about that. They're always going to have ideas, and especially now where they've maybe been out of work for a while, I'm guessing that they've kind of just been thinking about ways that we can work around these restrictions and how they're going to do things in their own business. So yeah, definitely speak to them, because, and like you said, they'll maybe have some ideas that you wouldn't even have thought of, that they're just desperate to get out there. So yeah, speak to your suppliers and your venue.
Cool. Another question that came through on Facebook was from a mother of the bride. Let me just pull it up. She was asking, says, her name's Lynn, and she says, I would love to know who does bespoke mother of the bride hats that are a bit unusual. Who would you say?
So I was having a wee think about this before, and I had actually just found someone on Instagram. So her Instagram is Leanne Cairns Millinery. She is based in Ayrshire. I'm just reading this so I definitely get it right. And she offers a service that I've actually never seen before. So she remodels hats. So if you had a hat, maybe like a family, like I know my mum still has her mum's hat from her wedding. So, and I mean, she wouldn't wear it because it's, all the time and it wouldn't suit her. But it's beautiful fabric and a nice shape. And what Leanne could do is remodel that into something, even maybe just using the fabric or the shape into something more modern. So I really like that idea, and I didn't even know that was a thing. So Leanne Millinery, you'll find her on Instagram.
Cool. I think we're quite spoiled for choice in Scotland, actually, when it comes to milliners. There are some really, really great ones. If you had a big, massive budget, you could go for somebody like William Chambers in Glasgow, who has designed hats for, Meghan Markle and people like that. He's really, really well regarded. And if you wanted to treat yourself, then you could go for somebody like him. There's also, I'm just reading my notes as well, Maggie Mowbray, who's based in Edinburgh. She makes bespoke hats. And Sally Ann Proven as well. I think that she's Edinburgh as well, but don't quote me on that. But she's somebody else who can create custom hats. And the great thing about getting something bespoke is obviously you can go and say, here's the outfit I'm wearing, here's the exact colour, here's the size I want. Like, not everybody wants to wear a big, massive hat. You might want something that's quite unusual or small. You can bring in elements of like maybe jewelry that you're wearing into like maybe you want some pearls on it or something like that. You can get something that's completely designed to suit you. Um, there's also Ultimate Design hats in Bears Den. They're actually usually at the wedding show in real life. Like, in fact, I think at the last one, their stand was beside the magazine stand
Yeah.
when the magazine existed, and they had loads of really nice hats. And I think that they do bespoke ones too. So, and they also do ones to hire as well. If you just wanted to hire rather than buy.
Yeah, that's quite a good idea actually, because obviously I don't think many women would probably wear a hat that often, and it's a lovely thing if you can afford it and you want to do it to get something bespoke made, like you were saying, or buy something really fancy. But yeah, if you just want the hat for the day, then maybe hiring it is something you can look into, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Another question. This was another sort of COVID related one, actually. This came through on Instagram. Just find it. So, somebody got in touch and they were basically saying that they're having a bit of a nightmare with trying to plan their sister's hen do at the moment, obviously, because we cannot predict the future right now. I guess we've never been able to predict the future, but obviously everything feels much more uncertain right now. She said that she was hoping to go around about this time next year. Originally, they were thinking about Paris. They had it all planned out, but now they think it's maybe going to be too risky still to go away. And then plan B would be to have a lodge, hire a lodge in Loch Lomond, but they're struggling to find a place that's big enough that doesn't cost the earth. So yeah, I think just it is a really difficult thing, and I guess you're sort of experiencing something similar because
Yeah.
your wedding's been postponed to next year, your hen do is going to be next year, but obviously you don't know if you're going to be able to go abroad or not.
Exactly. I mean, like you say, we can't predict what's going to happen next year, and no one can say, "Yeah, just go ahead and book flights and be fine," because we just don't know. But for me, we are kind of looking to try and go to Ibiza in July, August, but it's just, I mean, the flights don't come out till 6 months before, and then we just don't know what's going to happen. So, my advice to the bride would be, and I think we spoke about this, Natasha, is ask your hens who definitely are up for coming on your hen and they know kind of roughly the time you're thinking of year and they're happy to do whatever you want to do. Start doing like a wee savings pot and just getting each of your hens to put a bit of money away every month, like a tenner or 20 quid or whatever you guys want to do. And have that wee pot there. And then when we kind of know better what the situation's going to be next year, then you've got that money there. And if you see something and you want to go for it, then you can just go ahead and book a flight or book a lodge or whatever. There and then, because I think that booking things in advance just now is pretty tough because we just don't know what it's going to be like. We don't know what the restrictions are going to be. Obviously, if you were going to do something like a lodge at Loch Lomond, presuming that, we're presuming things are going to be different, but actually you don't know what the situation, the restrictions are going to be then. Everybody might be able to go to the same one and things like that. So yeah, I think plan for something, but maybe just don't put a label on what it's going to be just yet.
Yeah. I think also if you're looking for lodges, and I know it can be a bit of a nightmare to find the right place, and you can find yourself getting lost down a Google search wormhole looking for places that match your budget and size. And she didn't actually specify how big the lodge is that she's looking for, but I think one
Yeah,
thing to bear in mind is that quite a lot of hotels actually have lodges, so they're not always going to be the cheapest option, but sometimes that can be a good option just because in addition to having your accommodation, you'll have access to other services within that resort. Like I'm just thinking about places like, Lodge in Loch Lomond has lodges, doesn't it?
Lodge
And
in
then it's
Loch
got like,
Lomond.
no, sorry, am I thinking? No, sorry, I'm thinking of the Loch Lomond Arms. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so that's where I'm getting married.
They've got
Loch Lomond
lodges there.
Arms
Yeah,
definitely had cottages. So behind the hotel, they've got cottages there, and you can hire them out. They also have an affiliation with like a holiday park close by. And that's like kind of wee caravans and lodges and huts and stuff there. So that's maybe an option as well. But like you said, if it's affiliated with a hotel, then you've got the option of booking dinner there, and maybe they'll know other activities that you can do around about there. They might be able to help you actually plan the hen. And they've got local knowledge and stuff like that. Whereas if you're going to a lodge, you're kind of on your own sort of thing. You sort of need to plan what you're doing yourself. But round about Loch Lomond, I mean, there's loads of things. There's loads. Airbnb is a good option to have a look at. They do bigger properties on there as well. So maybe look there. I'm just not sure how far in advance people are booking things out, or if they're maybe not putting things up on Airbnb just now. Again, you need to play it by ear and just kind of plan ahead, but not, don't make any absolute concrete plans where if you don't want to book stuff just now, that's understandable, because you might lose deposits and you just don't know what's going to happen with flights. So I think just get your report savings up, talk about what you might want to do, and then when we get closer to the time, think about booking it then.
Yeah, I think one thing she was also saying was that she was just struggling to hear back from people right now. And, she's maybe contacting lodges and stuff, and they're not really getting back to her. And I think potentially the downside of something like Airbnb is it's just like regular people like me and you, not that we've got Airbnbs, but it's just a lot of the time it's just normal people who are hiring places out, and they're maybe a bit unsure about the restrictions and stuff. So I guess like another benefit of going via a more official channel, and especially a hotel, is that hotels are still kind of operational to a degree, even if they are running on reduced staff, and they're maybe more up to speed on the regulations and things like that, and they can kind of keep you right. I was even thinking of places, again, this is probably not like mega budget friendly, but the Carrick Spa has lodges. That's part of the Cameron House estate, so Cameron House still isn't open, I don't think, but places like that can be quite good. And then I was thinking, even if you might have your heart set in Loch Lomond, but you could also consider somewhere like Lochside Hotel, which is in Ayrshire. That's got a really beautiful location, and again, it's part of like a bigger place, so you would have access to the hotel, which has a restaurant and a spa and things like that, and the scenery around there is really, really nice. So that's something else to think about.
Lodge is amazing, absolutely amazing there. And I know that they do specific hen. I'm actually going to hen there next year. They do specific hen packages where they kind of package in dinner and cocktail class and like your spa days and stuff like that, and then you can go back to your lodge and do whatever you want at night and things like that. So I'm not sure what the local scene, nightlife scene is around that area. I think it's is it Newcastle, but you've got your lodge, you can do your own stuff and have your own kind of house party at night. So that's a lovely option as well, definitely.
Yeah. I think that might be all of, I'm just having a wee check, my questions. Have you got any more? Was there anything else on COVID type stuff?
That was it, really. I mean, a lot of people message not really asking a question, but just, worried about the whole COVID situation. So, and it's a really difficult one because we can't really advise you on anything much going forward because we just don't know what's going to happen. Like I've rebooked my wedding for September next year, and as of right now, it's going ahead as planned. But I guess we just have to wait and see. We just don't know what's going to happen, and there's no point in speculating on it at all. And unfortunately, we just can't give anybody any concrete answers, and I wish we could, because there's so many brides and grooms out there who are so worried about everything, and it's been such a stressful time for them. And I feel so sorry for them, I really do, and suppliers as well. It's been a really awful time for them. So one thing I would say is support your suppliers and try and be a little bit more understanding, and just understand that they are currently out of work, and it's a horrible time for them as well. So try and work together to come to some sort of solution.
I was going to say as well, if you need to vent about things, if you want to ask us questions, where it is difficult to answer ones relating to COVID, but if you just want to vent, we're always
Absolutely.
happy to chat to brides to be and grooms to
Yeah,
be, of course, on Instagram and stuff. Steph's handle
absolutely.
is Steph's
It
underscore bride underscore diary.
is now, yeah.
I'm at Wedding Editor. And yeah, you can message us anytime. We'll always do our best. Or even if you're confused by, because I know like the Scottish Government has their section on COVID weddings on their website. However, it's quite a minefield to get through, and I know that sometimes like you can just find yourself getting a bit confused by it. Also, if you need somebody to help you make sense of stuff, then just ping us a message, and we'll do our very best to help out.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for giving your wisdom as always. You're so wise. Um,
My
and
pleasure.
thank you to everybody who has joined this session today. Remember that there's a whole bunch of sessions on, so make sure you check them out and visit the exhibitor stands that are available today on the Wedding Show website. Go and chat to suppliers, and you can also, as I said, message me and Steph anytime, and we're always happy to help. Thank you.
Yep, definitely.
Bye.
Bye.